things like steering wheel needs to be uh, perfectly aligned, and you have to have wheels in it. In all these places you have fluids that you use. I don't remember there are different kinds like steering wheel fluid, and you have to have some fluid put for the brakes to make sure that there is brakes working fine. So if any of these, whether it is the fluids that we use with the brakes or anything is missing, will we be able to drive the car? If you happen to be driving up a mountain and now you are supposed to do a descent, you drive down the mountain, down the hill, and you don't have brake fluid, you will be in a great disaster. Therefore, five precepts are like one of these fluids. If anything is missing, we are putting our life into a huge danger. So this needs to be understood by all of us, that anything missing, anything, it could be any part of the car. Even if the wheels are not functioning properly, if the tire blows off, you will be stopped somewhere in the middle of the road and you may not be able to continue the journey that you wish to continue. In the same way, when you yourself have a perfect life given to you by your parents, and that you use it for any kind of misbehavior, misconduct, any kind of wrongdoing in this life, there will be disturbances for your life. And look at the five fingers that you have. If you clap from one finger, the sound will be much less. If you clap from two, the sound will be a little bit better. If you clap from all five, the sound increases, and there is perfect sound. So for us to even clap, you need to have these five fingers, five of them properly in place, and then your clapping will be perfect. Just the same way, for us for to have the full harmony, these five will be very much supportive in your life. And if you keep it lifetime, you will have less things to worry about. For example, someone who commits to killing, killing beings, will experience some force of karma within their own lifetime, and they may not know when their life will end. And it is obvious, in the teachings that when somebody has died in young age, the Buddha would pull a story saying that this person did a lot of killings, ending ending somebody's life before it was supposed to end, before it was supposed to naturally end. Because of this reason, this person will have a short lifetime for many births to come. And we normally do not see that part in our own being here. As human beings, we don't see the karmic force. In some cases, we know that we had a butcher near when during the Buddha's time. There was this man. He had killed pigs all the time, and because of that, there were noises when he came closer to dying. There were noises of him screaming, and this happened day and night. And monks who were going on alms round heard that these noises are coming from the morning, and then monks who were able to hear it from the monastery, like even at night, that these noises are coming. They thought this man is continuing to kill day and night, and then they made an inquiry about it. They went to the Buddha to discuss about it, and they said, this man, he is so fortunate to live so near the monastery, but he never has stopped his commitment to killing. And the Buddha said, no, this man is now reaching the end of his life, he's screaming like a pig. He himself experiences the pain that he gave to those pigs in his own lifetime. So this is somewhat frightening to all of us. If we think about it, we don't even know whether we will fall into a situation like that, that we will lose our own mind. You only hear the noises of pigs screaming, and you will be um, also imitating that toward the end of your life. So think about that whether you want to be embarrassed this way and continue these wrongdoings. This is bodily behavior, but you have taken it mentally as a commitment. Therefore, you would continue doing it without stopping it. So what is really uh, the first precept is for us about, you may think about the first precept in a new way. You will think like this. First precept is about taking the opportunity, cutting somebody's life when they have full lifetime to live. Cut, directly, intentionally ending somebody's life without letting them have a full life on their own. In the United States, you see there have been tons of murders, gun violence. The most recent one, I believe, is from the FedEx facility. A 19-year-old man entering the FedEx facility and taking lives. And this is because this man owned a gun. And according to the law, when you come of the age, you will be able to own a weapon like that. Weapons are for people who really, who are suffering from fear. If you do not suffer from any fear, you don't need a weapon. So those who really own weapons are people who have so much fear in them. This is how we look at it. If you even threaten them a little bit, they will pee in their pants. That's how much fear they have about their own life. And that may come from previous life, previous lives, or some, all these politicians or people sometimes own, also those who commit crimes own weapons. That is because they know that their karma can be after them anytime. Some people who have not done any wrong, they don't feel like they need to own a gun to protect themselves. They are ready to die. If it happens that way, that somebody takes their life by force, they let it happen. And if you can think of Moggallana's character, Venerable Moggallana, who had the highest psychic powers, second only to the Buddha, when he saw the karmic force coming behind him, he escaped. He disappeared into the air in that cave, but the bandits managed to finally, he surrendered finally in investigating what is really happening, that why are they after me again and again. And then he surrendered finally to the bandits, and he let them take his life. He knew that is inevitably because he, in a previous life, he took his parents to a forest because of his wife, saying, these parents are useless, that they are giving me so much work. This is too much work for me. And listening to his wife, he boarded his parents to a wheel cart and brought them to a jungle. And on the way, he told his parents that there will be bandits in this forest. And he ended up, pretending like he is, the bandits have come in the middle of the forest, and he was beating them so hard. And in the meantime, his parents were telling like, please, please spare my son. Do not do any harm to him. He is innocent. He was taking us to visit some family in the, outside of the jungle, on the other side of the jungle. And this is the wish of parents, that they did not want any harm. They were like, we are older. You can take our lives and our possessions, but please spare our son. This was so much love that those parents had toward the son. However, this man, in his previous life, imagine someone like Moggallana committing that kind of a crime, being fooled by the advice of his wife. So karma that way, it's a very heinous karma that you beat your parents and abandon them in the forest. They will starve and they would die. This is one of the gravest offenses in Buddhism. There are 5 grave offenses: killing your mother, killing your father, and shedding blood of the Buddha, killing an arahant, and also causing schism. Schism means dividing monks, like the Buddha's cousin did, Devadatta. He spoke to the monks and said, I am more serious than the Buddha. I am a lifetime vegetarian, and he was giving all these things. And these monks were fascinated with this kind of teachings and went after Devadatta. And by doing that, they went into wrong views until Venerable Sariputta and Moggallana went to rescue these monks. When these 2 monks came, Devadatta thought, oh, wow, even Sariputta and Moggallana are abandoning the Buddha and coming to me. But in the end, what really happened was Sariputta and Moggallana gave nice Dhamma talks, and the monks understood. And think about this. Why did the Buddha not promulgate something like monks should be perfectly vegetarian for lifetime? That is because there was a rule placed by him that monks should accept whatever is offered if the animal is not killed for you. If you do not have any doubt that this animal was um, killed for you, if you do not have any doubt that if you are clear that this animal was not killed for you, then you can have it. If it died from natural causes that they normally kill, and that you didn't know that this was being offered because you don't have a choice, so you just have it. Have it. If you are used to having it, you just have it just for the sake of surviving, not out of greediness. So I would suggest to people to think in terms of, if you are a monk in your lifetime, that you happen to go to northeastern Thailand, where you will be given the village food offered by people. And sometimes, you know that I have been close to Venerable Ajahn Brahm in my translations. And he was telling stories like sometimes he only got a boiled frog for his food, just a boiled frog, and just a little bit of sticky rice on the side. And some monks didn't know that this boiled frog had a bladder, and that they would squeeze it trying to have a little bit of food, and whatever is inside the bladder would just spread everywhere on other monks. So these are like some disgusting situations, but on the side, I like to share it because for the strict practices of monks, since they don't, in some places, they don't store food and keep for the next day, they don't spend time on cooking, they just survive on what is being offered to them. And therefore, Buddhism survived outside of the world. Because I think I may have told this to you that last 2 weeks ago, I was giving a talk to people from um, Jain tradition, Jainism, beautiful group of people. We were in exchanging about Buddhism and Jainism, observing similarities. It came from a friend of mine, a professor who is working in a university, and he put me in touch with this other professor. So this was a class speech. In it, we were comparing Buddhism with Jainism. Jainism is about extreme avihimsa, absolute non-harming of any being. And I was telling a point that Buddhism did not survive in India at some point. And immediately after that, their group leader said, for the same reasons, we wonder why Jainism did not survive outside the world. Now, when this was said, it was very interesting to me that Buddhism survived outside of the world and Jainism did not survive outside of India. And in India, they were traveling from place to place like Buddhist monks did, spreading Buddhism. And King Asoka, in the third, I think it was during third century, or second century, I don't remember that exactly well, somewhere in 200 something BC, 262, and he spread Buddhism all throughout the world. If the Buddha put a rule that, strict rules that monks should not blend with the environments, that if they should accept whatever is being offered and consume it, sometimes some monks would not dwell in areas where there were only the meat eaters. And the message of the Buddhism will not go into those places. When Buddhism came to Sri Lanka by King Ashoka's son, Arahant Mahinda, the king was hunting, right? The king was hunting, and the Arahant Mahinda said, Samana Mayang Maharaja, monks, great king, we are monks, we are recluses. Dhammaraja Savaka, we are the disciples of Dhammaraja, King Dhamma. Taveva Anukampaya, Jambudipa Idhagata, for the benefit of you, we came from Jambudipa to this land. And the king abandoned his hunting and surrendered, and he bowed down to these monks, that they had super abilities, that they were well prepared to spread Buddhism, and eventually Sri Lanka became a Dhamma land. The king was um, uh, the king stopped hunting afterwards and became a Buddhist king. Even his queen Anula became a Buddhist nun eventually, and that is because of the influence of our Arahant Mahinda's sister Sangamita, who also went to Sri Lanka with the sapling of the Bodhi tree and established Buddhist order in Sri Lanka. So that's like a little story, but about like how flexible Buddhism is in terms of these precepts. This is not telling us to go strict about it. If you are a meat eater, try to be beneficial to the society. If you happen to eat that, spread loving kindness to those beings. That whoever sacrificed life to feed my hunger, I owe you, and I will commit to doing good and safeguarding animals, rescuing animals, and I will be a safe refuge to them. And eventually, my life will be committed for the well being of others. If you think that way, you can fill your mind with wholesome thoughts, even after eating some food that you didn't intend to. But the reason I stopped eating meat is when I was small, I remember this monk giving a talk, and he was telling like, why do you fill your stomach with meat? That your all these carcasses go into your tummy, and your tummy is a cemetery. This thought came, I felt disgusted of the idea of eating meat. After that, your stomach is not a cemetery, and I realized that there are plenty of other food to eat. And I went on, and my father has been a strict, really, he has been a vegan. He didn't even consume any milk in his life, and now he is a Buddhist monk, and he's continuing to live a life eating just one meal a day, and he's doing so well in his life, healthy. And when we make a cup of tea for him, he says, add as much sugar as you want. That he doesn't even worry about having diabetes like we all are worried about it nowadays from young age. But for him, he was very much in control, that he ate when he was hungry, and he had a lot of discipline in that area. So going back to the first precept again, if you are ending somebody's life before it is supposed to end naturally, there you are committing this crime. And in this, you have to be careful in three respects. You cannot do it on, you cannot kill. So this is called Trikoti Parisuddha Sila. For Sila to be pure from three kotis, three ends, three areas. The first thing is you don't kill yourself. Second thing is you don't ask somebody to kill it for you. The third thing is you don't praise about killing. Same with other precepts. You don't steal. You don't ask somebody to steal for you, and you don't praise about stealing something. So you are keeping that precept. So make sure you are pure, very pure in those areas. Some evil spirits did not like the Buddha because these evil spirits knew that the Buddha was about Panatipata Veramanya Dhamman Deseti. The Buddha gives Dhamma for the abandoning of killing beings. Pana Atipata. There is a prana, there is a life, and you Atipata. You overcome it by taking the privilege of life for them. So if you don't do, if you are pure in all these three areas, you will be safe in your life. What is this also hinting at is being a friendly being. When a monk was bitten by a snake, this monk was brought to the Buddha. The Buddha said, monks, this monk particularly has not been friendly with animals, that he did not carefully wander in animal habitat. You have to be respectful for those beings. The animal did not come and bite. Just this monk may not have been very friendly in that area. That if you were friends with them, they know that you are a respectful being. If you are a being, if you are a human who is really making noises, frightening noises, even the monks' robes supposed to be less frightening. The colors should be blending with the forest. When monks go to forest, they need to be respectful, making less noises, knowing that there are wild animals living and this is their home, now that I am making it my home. So the first precept is a unique way to have an opening about loving kindness in our mind. And I can give a whole separate Dhamma talk about loving kindness, perhaps next week. And I must also share with you that I may be moving to Canada in the coming month, and therefore I may not be able to continue because I'm not sure if I will have proper internet connection during my quarantine, that they are going to put me into a house that is new, and they said they don't have internet as yet. So and I have been telling the organizers about that. So, but I will I will be able to come back when things are in order. Anyways, for now, the first precept is connected with loving friendliness. You have friendliness toward not just the human beings. Like in the Metta Sutta, you have friendliness towards all beings. Your heart is a loving place. So therefore, you don't wish anybody's life to end before it is supposed to naturally end. I hope I covered enough about the first precept. The second one is about stealing. Since our childhood, we learn that it is bad to steal, and someone who makes it a habit of stealing something feel embarrassed because you are caught, because your true conscience know that you have stolen it. This is why Clean conscience, they say, is like a soft pillow. You can sleep well without worrying about anything because you have not stolen anything. Even if you happen to take something from somebody, you take a piece of paper and you leave a note that I have taken this thing and I will return the double of it on your desk. You don't steal somebody's food when you are at school, because somebody who has to consume that food will check in the fridge to see if that food is available for them, and they may go hungry because somebody else has stolen that food. If you are hungry, you can certainly ask that person, I'm super hungry, my mom did not share any food, my mom did not pack any food for me, or I could not bring any food, I don't have any money, but is it okay I have some of your food? This is so much better for your true conscience than stealing somebody's food. People steal in large scale. Only the poor people who are stealing things like picking a mango will be put behind the bars by some weird law systems. When people steal millions and hundreds of billions, sometimes uh, poor people have no power over it. So uh, when that kind of a person come into power, there is corruption everywhere, and this will contribute to the downfall of any economy of any country, because you take the ownership of people's money as a powerful person, and that you do unwise things using that money, feeding your family and raising the raising the status of your family. This is also different. Somebody's mic is not mute. I don't know who that is. So make sure that you put right people, those who never steal, into the power. But even sometimes putting somebody right in, just putting one person into the power who is right is not enough, because other people who are corrupted will jail this person. And this has been happening throughout the history, and will defame them and will not make use of their abilities to serve for the country. The third precept is about sexual misconduct, and I'll tell a story about that. There was a Japanese Zen monk who said, I have now mastered everything, and my precepts are good, and I can maintain my virtues anytime, and I have come to awakening. So his teacher said, all right, there is a test that you need to pass. So there's a bottle of sake. Sake is this Japanese liquor, the very strong liquor they have. And you can either drink that, or there's that goat outside that you can kill it by um, one um, one shot, or you can sleep with that beautiful lady. So he was given three challenges. Which one do you choose? You must choose one. And he ended up taking, um, this also connects with the fifth precept, right? He ended up taking the sake bottle, and the next morning, um, what was there? Like the goat meat was on the table, and the woman in his bed. All because he broke one precept, one that actually this is about the final precept, the fifth one about intoxications. Drinking alcohol means you are breaking all the precepts. You committed to killing, you also did sexual misconduct, and you cannot keep your sanity. You go insane because of breaking this one precept. So be very careful. Um, so it's a story that I share with people every day when I happen to talk about precepts. Think about that in your life. if you commit to drinking a little bit, that little bit will ask you to drink a little bit more, and the double of that will ask you to drink a little bit more, and it will go on and on and on without you knowing that you have done silly things. If you happen to be in an office place and you drink and do weird things, and you turn on the CCTV camera only to find out all those weird things that you have done, that you lose all your consciousness. And I mean, you are conscious, but you don't keep track of the things that you do. That this is harmful to your power. I have had doctors bringing their husbands to me in Sri Lanka, saying, my husband is the boss of so and so place, and he has a bad habit of drinking. Can we stop it? And they succumb to this drinking, and in the end their liver is damaged and they have cirrhosis, and eventually they will not be able to live. They will have a lot of regret in their life and continue being harmful to themselves. So I think we covered the third precept is about sexual misconduct. The fifth one is about intoxications. The one that we did not discuss about is telling lies. People, all these precepts are connected. If you happen to tell a lie, that is because you are intoxicated with your conceit. This is like the rose that the little one was talking about. When you are intoxicated with conceit, your mana, there you will say things, you will put people down, you will not know that someday you will also be, you will need the help of the cactus. The cactus who's beautiful on its own way, was able to help the rose because the rose was in need of water. And the roses have short lifespan compared to the cactus. So we are all in need of other people. So we need to be super careful about how we look at other people. The Buddha said, if you have Seyamana, Sadisamana, and Atimana, all the three are wrong. Seyamana, so Sadisamana is you are equal to others. Atimana is that you are superior than others. And Seyamana is like you are inferior than others. All three are wrong, the Buddha said, because this is conditioned attitude of people. You just don't have to compare because everyone is unique, and all your life here is to offer help as needed and continue living harmlessly. So the third precept is about sexual misconduct. Little teenagers getting into taking nude pictures and sending to other people in Facebook, and these cannot be deleted. Facebook, even if you deactivate it, that information will be accessible in the future against you if somebody wants to use it against you. And even if you delete the profile name will be like a Facebook user, and there will be all that information that you sent in that profile saved even after deleting it. Even if you download your Facebook profile as a folder, in that all that information will be available. Only the ones that you sent by yourself will be available. And that way, in all these data networks, these things can be recovered. This is like people digging archaeological sites. In the future, there will be data archaeology, and people will be digging information as a study platform, and will find out about yourself. So you don't need to do these kind of things. You don't need to imaginarily enjoy. You just have a good partner and commit to that partner, and dedicate your lifetime discovering the love that you otherwise cannot feel. And there you will enjoy a good married life. Until then, continue living a life without these pollutants in your mind. You will have all your focus and energy on your increasement, your development. So I will end my talk here. So clap not with just with one finger, with all five, and have all the five fluids in your: brake fluid, steering wheel fluid, gas, and fluids of the car perfectly in alignment as you drive your vehicle, your life down, uphill or downhill, whichever direction you go. Make sure you have all these in place, all five. If one is missing, you will be in danger. I guess this is a good place to end.
Thank you, Bhante Kusala. It was a wonderful talk. I would just like to summarize. So today you talked about 5 precepts: not killing, not stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lies, and final one was
intoxications.
Yeah, no intoxication. Thank you for correcting. So anybody has any question, please go ahead. We still have, we can still do a question for another couple of minutes.
Pradeep, I have a question, Vinaya.
Yes, Vinaya, please go ahead.
So thank you so much, Bhanteji, for the discourse. It was very nice, as always. One question with regards to the precept number 4, with regards to no lying. So Bhanteji, a lot of time it so happens that consider we are living here in the US and our parents are back home, and sometimes we speak with them over phone, and sometimes some of us are not keeping well, and they will ask, oh, how is your son doing, or whatever. So sometimes if you tell them that we are not keeping well, then they get worried. So in those kind of cases where we just want to say that everything is fine, is that considered breaking the precept?
Yes. Sorry, but your intention matters here. I just said just as a joke, don't take it seriously. If your intention was to not lie, I think your intention was not to really tell a lie to them, to take anything from them, just to keep their mental peace in order, right? This was your intention. Therefore, can you even take it as a lie? You would tell something if it really mattered, right? There could come at some point that you will have to, if you continue feeling not well and that is a prolonged illness, there will be a point where you will disclose it, but not right now. So therefore, your intention matters here. Intention is karma, the Buddha said. So you need to willingly cheat on them. And this is, if you are, cheating to own their properties, or, giving some medicine for somebody to end their life, and that you don't say the truth about it. Your mind knows that you did this thing. Therefore, this weaker point, the universe will catch you in that weaker point at that, at a point when you are vulnerable. Therefore, make sure your intention is clear in this.
Okay, Bhanteji. Thank you so much. Sadhu.
You're welcome. Any more questions? All right, we can end the session now.
Yes, thank you, Bhanteji, for a wonderful talk. It's always enlightening to listen to you, and you express Buddhism in such a simple language. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
So we will move on to the next session. So today we have a special speaker. We have Vijay Surwade. Vijay Surwade is one of the known figure in the Ambedkarite movement. Vijay Surwade was born in June 30, 1953 in Maharashtra. He graduated in Bachelor of Arts from Mumbai University. Vijay Surwade has a lot of collections of Dr. Ambedkar's speeches and books and everything. He started collecting it since childhood, and he has all the vast collection of photographs, rare references, books, documents, letters published by Dr. Ambedkar. This collection on Dr. Ambedkar is surprised anywhere in the world. Surwade has also a rich personal library of rare references books on the other eminent personalities like Jyotiba Phule, Shahu Maharaj, Sayaji Rai Gaikwad, Gandhiji, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Veer Savarkar. Vijay Surwade ji was closely associated with the well-known biographer Dr. Dhananjay Keer and collaborated in writing autobiographies of Dr. Keer, and also he was also closely connected with Mrs. Savita Ambedkar, better known as Mai Sahib, second wife of Dr. Ambedkar. Surwade was also a member of subcommittee on Dr. Ambedkar Source Material Publication Committee constituted by the government of Maharashtra with the aim of publishing publishing work and speeches of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. So on that note, I would like to welcome Vijay Surwade ji. But before, I just want to mention one thing. Today, we also have Ambedkar Jayanti. Boston Study Group is celebrating. That is going to start at 11:30. So I won't be available for the question and answer. So I would like to also inform Pankaj Meshram that he can take over the question and answer session. And if you wish to join, please join Ambedkar Jayanti of Boston Study Group after the Vihara session. Thank you very much. I would like to invite Vijay Surwade ji to share his information about life of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Thank you. Surwade ji, you are on mute.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Hello. Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim. Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim. Your good name, please?
This is Pradeep Mahale.
Pradeep Mahale. Okay. Jai Bhim.
Yeah. Jai Bhim.
Where do you stay, by the way?
I live in Somerville, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me. First of all, I give the good wishes for Babasaheb Jayanti, and thanks to the association, as well as I know many people there because I had been there in America, and I'm really grateful to them, and I am very proud that you people are carrying the work of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Mission. It is continuing there in USA. So you are really, I really appreciate your work, and you are doing a very good work and spreading the thoughts of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar abroad. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, Vijay, can hear you. Yeah.
Can I start?
Yes, you can start.
Yeah. See, I will not take more time. I have got about 4 or 5 points, important issues. I will talk upon it. First is photograph of you people have seen that only one photograph is available of Subedar Ramji Ambedkar. So it has got a great history behind that. So that I will talk. Then I will talk Dattoba Dalvi and Dattoba Pawar, because of the similarity of Dattoba. So there is confusion, lot of misunderstanding in that. So I will speak on that and their contribution to life of Dr. Ambedkar. Then I would like to talk on Dr. Ambedkar Guruji, who gave his own surname to Baba Sahib, and Keduskar Guruji, who was, both of them were the well-wisher of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Then I will talk about the fact of the Bhima Koregaon visit of Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar and Baroda episode, because Baroda, so far, no biography has given a facts about the Baroda. Fortunately, I had been there for I had been transferred to Baroda, and during my stay over there, no doubt I was trying earlier also, but when I went there personally, so I have found out all the documents, all the files, hundreds of files I have seen, and I have collected all the material and all the facts about Baba Sahib's scholarship, Baba Sahib's designation, his joining dates, his service register, everything. So I would like to disclose that or share with you. Third thing, there are some coincidences in Ambedkar family itself that will also I would like to take. So first I go to Subedar Ramji's photograph. So you must have seen that is the only photograph is available of Baba Sahib's father, Subedar Ramji Ambedkar. So Baba Sahib has written letter to Dattoba Dalvi. Coincidentally, Dattoba Dalvi, Dattoba Pawar both had played an important role in the life of Baba Sahib, and both belongs to Kolhapur. Both were known to Shahu Maharaj, and both also helped Shahu Maharaj to meet for Shahu Maharaj and Baba Sahib's meeting. So both of them have played a very important role in that. But there is some confusion because of the similar name, Dattoba Dalvi, Dattoba Pawar. So I will read out one letter of Baba Sahib. The original letter I have got in handwriting, own handwriting of Baba Sahib in Marathi, and I have already forwarded to Bhagat sir. So you can have that copy of the letter of Baba Sahib. The letter itself will tell the story of that photograph of Subedar Ramji Maluji Ambedkar. So I will just read out that is in Marathi. I will just read out, it will tell the story. Then I will go proceed. I just read this letter and then I will shift to Dattoba Pawar and Dattoba Dalvi. So this is letter written by Baba Sahib to Dattoba Dalvi. It is dated 8th May 1923, when just Baba Sahib had come back from London after completing his DSc and bar at law. So he is writing to Dattoba. Priya Dattoba. Dattoba means Dattoba Dalvi. He was an artist. He was a principal of JJ School of Art in Bombay also. So he was an artist. So Baba Sahib wrote him on 8th May 1923, stating that प्रिय दत्तोबा नमस्ते, मी आलो आहे हे आपणास समजले असेलच. आज बरेच दिवस पत्राने अथवा समक्ष आपला समाचार न कळल्यामुळे कसेसेच वाटत आहे. तरी आपल्या दर्शनाचा लाभ लवकरच होईल अशी आशा आहे. या पत्रासोबत राजमान्य पवार दिस पवार मीन्स दत्तोबा पवार यांच्या हस्ते मी आपल्याकडे माझ्या वडिलांचा फोटो पाठवित आहे. त्याचे ऑइल पेंटिंग आपल्याकडून करून घेण्याची माझी फार उत्कट इच्छा आहे. अशा कामी आपल्यावर गळ घालावी की नाही याबद्दल आजवर माझे मन द्विधाच होते. परंतु राजमान्य पवार मीन्स दत्तोबा पवार, आपण या तस्तीबद्दल वाईट वाटू देणार नाहीत असा धीर दिल्याबद्दल मी हे फोटो पाठवण्याचे धाडस करीत आहे. फोटोत एकाच ठिकाणी रिटच करणे जरुरी आहे. रिटचिंग फोटोत एकाच ठिकाणी रिटच करणे जरुरी आहे आणि ते ठिकाण म्हणजे मुखचर्या होय, मीन्स फेस. फोटो मृत्यू समय घेतला असल्याने मुखावर म्लानता आलेली आहे. ती व्यक्तीस साम्यत्वात फरक न पाडता काढली पाहिजे. बाकी रदबदलीची कोठे जरुरी आहे असे मला वाटत नाही. ऑइल पेंटिंगची साईज किती ठेवावी हे मी आपणावरच सोपवित आहे. बाकी तो आटोपशीर असावा असे मला वाटते. आपल्या कामाची माझ्या कृतीनुसार पुढे मागे मी चीज करीन. कळावे लोभ असावा, तसदीची माफी करणे. आपला नम्र भीमराव आंबेडकर. I think I think this letter clarifies the background and the fact of the photograph of Subedar Ramji Ambedkar. Now I will go to Dattoba Dalvi and Dattoba Pawar. What happened in 1919? Baba Sahib came in 17 MA PhD after this London and Columbia and London school. Then it was known to Dattoba Pawar also because he belonged to Charmakar community in Kolhapur and he was very close to Shahu Maharaj also. So he provided the information that one boy from the untouchable committee of the community, he has done a MA and PhD from Columbia, and he has just returned from abroad. So naturally, Shahu Maharaj got very excited, and he was very much eager to see him. And that time, now this Dattoba Dalvi comes in picture. See, Dattoba Pawar, Dattoba Dalvi. That is the difference, but there is a confusion. But they have played the role in the life of Dr. Ambedkar. So Dattoba Dalvi, he was a student of JJ School of Arts. And Shahu Maharaj was knowing his father also. So naturally, Dattoba Dalvi himself told that I will contact Dr. Ambedkar and I will convey the message. He promised to Maharaja that I will call him, I will meet him, and I will give your invitation, and I will convince him to come to Kolhapur state. But he met the Baba Sahib, Dattaba Dalvi, the artist, who was a student that time. Subsequently, he became the principal of the JJ school. He met the Baba Sahib, but Baba Sahib was not interested because in those days, normally this Sansthanik, this Raja Maharajas, they were very luxurious life. They were enjoying. They had some drawbacks or whatever. So Baba Sahib was not interested in that. So he failed to communicate, convince, or bring Baba Sahib to Kolhapur. But subsequently, Dattova Pawar took place, and then Dattova Pawar had a contact with Shivtarkar. Even Shahu Maharaj also had written a one letter to Shivtarkar also, because Shivtarkar was a key person in those days. Baba Sahib in movement of Baba Sahib. So accordingly, Dattova Pawar convinced, and Shivtarkar also convinced, and that way Baba Sahib was convinced to visit that. But before that, on uh, before that, the Shahu Maharaj came to Bombay because he had his palace at Mumbai. In Mumbai, he had a palace, his palace, and normally these kings or this Sanstana Repati, they used to come to Bombay because they were governed by the governor of Bombay. So for meeting purpose or some official purpose or whatever, they used to come to Mumbai. So accordingly, Shahu Maharaj happened to come to Mumbai, and he himself went to see Baba Sahib at his BID chart uh, in on 17th December 1919. So the person, Damar Shirke, then Bagal, many people who were very close to Shahu Maharaj, they have described this incidents that Maharaj came, he go inquiring the BIT Chal, and he went there with the car, and he said, because Baba Sahib was staying on the second floor and room number 50 and 51. So the messenger was sent to the Baba Sahib, message was sent to Baba Sahib that Shahu Maharaj has come and he want to meet you. By that time, Baba Sahib was convinced about the motive and the work of Shahu Maharaj. So he came running down and he told that you would have asked me, I would have come and see you. So Shahu Maharaj asked him to sit in the car, and he brought him to his palace, and there he gave 2,500 rupees check because Baba Sahib told that for the moment this newspaper is necessary. So Shahu Maharaj, on the same day, Shahu Maharaj gave 2,500 check for Mukanaik. And on that amount, and because of that amount, Baba Sahib started Mukanaik. And this Mukanaik special issue was also released. One letter is there, if you remember, that he says Huzura's photo घ्यायचा. Means Baba Sahib went personally, and I have seen personally that special issue on Shahu Maharaj. I have seen personally my hands. It was really, but now it is not because it is gone now. So I don't know because of this raining in 2005 or six, in Mumbai or whatever. So it is not available now. But I have seen my own hands, my own eyes, the issue of issue of Shahu Maharaj of Mukanai. So, so this is the history of the first meeting of Shahu Maharaj and Baba Sahib, and the role of Dattova Dadvi and Dattova Pawar also. Now this photograph is drawn by Dattova Pawar that you have. So the Dattova Pawar was the Mukanai used to give the advertisement of his shoe shop, Lokmanya Paizaria. His shop was there, but Mukanaik was in Bombay region only. Still, he used to give the advertisement of his shop, this shoe shop, so that Mukanaik could get some financial assistance. So that way, the power also has played a very important role in the life of Baba Sahib. Of course, afterwards he joined Congress, and that is a different history. So this is Dattava Pawar, Dattava Dadvi, and Baba Sahib father's photograph. Then I will shift to Dr. Ambedkar Guruji and Keluskar Guruji. So you people all are known that Baba Sahib used to go to Cherni Road garden for studies because the house was very small and it was crowded and disturbance was there. So, and Keluskar Guruji was the principal of the Wilson High School, and it is in Cherni Road only. So he observed that one boy is regularly coming and reading the books. So he inquired about him. Then he come to know that he is from depressed classes, and this boy is very sharp. So he used to then increase his contacts in that, and he used to call him at home. He was staying at Dadar only, Keluskar Guruji. So what happened after passing the matriculation examination, the Toba Keluskar Guruji and Rao Bahadur Bole, they decided to honor Dr. Ambedkar because he was the first matriculate student in the depressed classes of that time. But first of all, his community, our community, this Mahar community, approached his father and said that we will celebrate, we will congratulate him. But he refused. This news goes to Keluskar Guruji, and Keluskar Guruji and Subedar, they were known to each other. So Keluskar Guruji convinced him that he should be encouraged. He is the first student of the matric in the depressed classes. So they organized the function. It was in Dabakchal because he passed matriculation into 2007, 1907. So that was that function was organized at Dabakchal, not BIT Chal, because they shifted subsequently to the BIT Chal. So that function was there, and Keluskar Guruji presented a book on life of Buddha, Buddha Charitra, and that was the second edition because it was published earlier in 1884 or something, and second edition was published in 1907. So the book presented to 1904. The book presented that was the second edition, and I have also got in my collection that edition, particular edition, second edition. So that was presented to Baba Sahib, and Baba Sahib has written in the Buddha and his Dhamma preface also that book impressed him so much, and because of that he attracted to the Buddha because of that book. So that's Keluskar after and this Subedar was a pensioner. He was getting 50 rupees per month pension, but that was not sufficient for the family because their family was very big. So he decided after inter, he decided to stop the study of Baba Sahib and Bhimrao. Then Keduskar came to know that he's a very scholar student, he's a very clever student, he's a very sharp student, and he should continue the studies further also. So he convinced Subedar, but Subedar said it is not possible for him to continue beyond inter. So Keduskar Guruji told him that he will bring Bhimrao to Sahajrao Gaikwad and he will definitely help. But everywhere it is written, but it is half truth, because the main role played there was by Damodar Savlaram Yende. He was a owner of the Hindu Prakash Press, and he had a very close relation with the Sahajrao. हॅलो
हो सर, कंटिन्यू करा सर.
हा
Yes,
चालू
sir,
आहे
आम्ही
ना
ऐकू शकतो. हो हो हो.
ओके
Continue करा,
ओके
sir.
ओके ओके हा तर कॅन आय टॉक इन मराठी
हो चालेल सर. हो मला वाटतं इंग्लिश असेल तर हे होईल, परंतु
नाही नाही नो प्रॉब्लेम नो प्रॉब्लेम नो
अच्छा,
प्रॉब्लेम बट आय विल
Continue
टॉक इन
करा,
इंग्लिश
sir.
मराठी मिक्स
ओके. हा हा चालेल सर.
so what happened that is half truth that Keduskar brought Baba Sahib to Sahajrao because Sahajrao was staying at Malabar Hill and the name of his bungalow was Jai Mahal. It was at Nepean Road. Nepean Road means just at the bottom of the Malabar Hill. So Jai Mahal was the palace of Maharaj. Recently, I got the photograph of that also. I shared to many people also. So there, what happened? This Hindu Prakash place was at Girgaon, and the Damodar Saravana Yande was very close to Maharaj, because while searching the papers of Baba Sahib in Baroda archives and that Maharaja's documents, I find many letters written by Damodar Yande, Damodar Sablaram Yande, and he was a great help to all Maharashtrian institutions that time. It may be Marathi Sangha Sahitya Mandal or whatever, or even Bhajani Mandal. So he used to help the people because of using his good offices with Maharaja. So like that only, so Keduskar took Damodar Savlaram Yande. Keduskar took Baba Sahib to his place, which was in Girgaon. And the people you must be knowing that Girgaon is very at the bottom of the Malabar Hill. So he took Bhimrao to Savlaram Yande, Damodar Savlaram Yande, and all of them took tanga, this horse cart, and they went to see Maharaja because Damodar Yande has written this very much, and Pratap Singh Maharaj also written a biography of Sayaji Rao. There also he has quoted from the Damodar Savlaram Yande. What he says that from Girgaon, Keduskar Guruji came with the Bhimrao to Girgaon, to his place, Hindu Prakash place. From there they took horse cart, and by horse cart they went to Jai Mahal. And Bhimrao was very shy. He says he is untouchable. Maharaj may not like to that he should go and before him. So he stayed outside the Mahal. And Keduskar Guruji and Savlaram Yande, they went there. And what Maharaj was in practice to know the condition or whatever is going on, what is the progress in social, economical, political life. He used to ask Damodar Savlaram Yande. So as usual, he asked what is going on in that and how you came. So he said one depressed classes, one untouchable student is there. He is very sharp, but he is not in position to continue his studies. He has already passed inter. And then Maharaja asked, where is he? So he's outside. So immediately the peon was sent. And why you are kept him out? Call him. Then he called Baba Sahib. This is written by Damodar Yande and this is referred by Pratap Singh Maharaj. So there he then inquired, Sahajrao asked some questions. So one question was that what you will do after getting this higher education. So he says, Maharaj, whatever you tell, accordingly I will do. So that time Maharaj said that this education, your education should be utilized or used for the society, for your society, to uplift them. So that time he was very happy. Maharaj was also very happy. And accordingly, he promised to give scholarship for graduation. Here is also always much misunderstanding. There are two scholarships. One is for graduation, one is for higher education abroad. So that time he said that he will help to become a graduate by granting him the scholarship. Accordingly, after going through the papers, the Maharaj had suggested 50 rupees per month. But ultimately, everywhere it is seen that 25 rupees per month. But I saw one letter, a forwarding letter, it is from the Baroda state, where they have given 120 rupees for 6 months. So it comes to 20 rupees. So that must be that we should think. See, Maharaja suggested 50 rupees per month, and everywhere it is written that 25 rupees, but practically it must be 20 rupees because check was for 6 months and that was 120 rupees. So accordingly, this scholarship was sanctioned to Baba Sahib, and the check was going directly to the principal of Elphinstone College. So on this scholarship, he became a graduate. Graduate means the exam was always, there is also some confusion. Some people say it's 1912, some people say 1913. Practically, what happened? What has happened? The exam was conducted in November, but result was declared in January 13, and exam was conducted in 12. So in 13, result are out, and now, because of that condition, he has to go to Baroda for service. That was the condition by sanctioning the scholarship. Accordingly, he went there. He joined there on 15th January 1913. And in my album, I have given the service, that particular page of the service register, where it is clearly written he joined the service on 15th January 1913. See, 15th January, and he was a probationer. In all biographies, everything is given very wrong. That he was a advisor, he was a finance secretary, he was a subedar, lieutenant. Sometimes his advisor, his consultant. It's all this too. It was a government service. In government service, always there is a probationary. So Baba Sahib was just probationer, and he joined Accountant General's office in military department's Accountant General office. So that is the fact. And he was getting 75 rupees per month. You may call it stipend. It was not a regular pay scale. After that, he received a telegram from his father, that from his relative, that his father is very serious. So accordingly, on 1st February, he joined on 15th January. 1st February, he catch the train for Bombay, and he thought that Surat Barfi was very famous. So he thought that I will purchase a barfi for my father. So he got down from the train and purchased a barfi for his father. And the time he came back to the station, the train was left. And train was there on the next day. So whole night he has to stay there. The next day, means 2nd February 1913, he reached Bombay about 3 o'clock. So his father was in critical condition. His eyes were waiting for Bhimrao, for his son, his lovely son. So he just saw him, and he died. So he was waiting to just see Bhimrao. So hardly 15th January to 1st February, he was there in Baroda, in that service as a probationer on the pay of rupees 75 per month. Then what happened? He again Maharaja announced scholarship, and that's one scholarship was for specifically for Mahar student, specifically, and this was known to Keluskar and this Yande also. So again, because Baba Sahib was not in mood because the father was died, and like that. But Kirloskar again took him to Maharaja and told him that the scholarship is there. Uh, Actually, Bhimrao went there, tell his sorrows and his father's death and every problems there to stay on. Because they, when he went in 1913, he stayed in the Arya Samajist hostel. It is in Kareli Bagh. I have seen that Kareli Bagh. The present building is constructed in 1935. The Baba Sahib stayed there in 1913. So there one Pandit Atmaram Amritsari was there. He was in charge of that Arya Samaja, and he was, though he was not a scheduled caste, but he was teaching the untouchable students under the banner of Arya Samaj. So he allowed him to stay in the hostel, and the tiffin was arranged from the Marwada nearby. So this was the problem. So he, in that connection they went, but then Maharaj only told him, why don't you apply for that scholarship? So he asked Bhimrao to apply for the scholarship for higher studies higher studies abroad. So accordingly, Baba Sahib applied there, and the scholarship was in fact, no, after going through the papers, I can tell this. Originally, he was to send to London, but the scholarship was for London only, because in New York and America, scholarship was much higher than London. So the Diwan and everybody from the office, they were of the opinion that he should be sent in all. He should be sent to London. But as per my knowledge or whatever my guessing is there, that Maharaja only suggested because he was impressed by the democracy in America, Maharaja. So naturally he think that that would be better. So accordingly, Baba Sahib was sent to America, Columbia University, and a scholarship was, I mean, they have to pay the more scholarship there, of course. So this way, Baba Sahib went to Columbia University, and in the first place, the scholarship was for only 2 years, 13, 14, 15 only. But subsequently, it was extended to 1 year for Columbia, means 13 to 16. And subsequently, again, Baba Sahib requested 1 year for London. So accordingly, the total scholarship was from 14th June 1913 to 14th June 1916 for Columbia, and 14th June 1916 to 14th June 1917 for London. So that way Baba Sahib studied there in London. So this is about Baroda and scholarship, everything. So now I will turn to now I'll turn to Ambedkar Guruji and Kirloskar Guruji. Ambedkar Guruji was there. Nowadays, some people say he was not there, and people just give credit to the Brahmins. They quote this name. But I have got the entire history of the Ambedkar family, that Guruji's family. Originally, he belongs to Ambed, and he was born there in 1855. Ambed, Budruk. There were two Ambeds. Ambed. So he was belonging to Budruk, Taluka Devruk, Gilla Ratnagiri. And he came to Kolhapur, Satara for a job, and he got the job of the teacher, and that was in mission school. That was a school run by the missionaries. That is called camp school also. It was situated in Cooper compound, Sadar Bazar, Cooper compound. And Baba Sahib was admitted there in primary school. Pre-primary was done in Dapoli. There he was admitted to Jivan Shikshan Shala number 1, Jivan Shikshan School number 1, Gadithad. That area was Gadithad, where Baba Sahib was admitted in pre-primary, and after shifting to Satara, Subedar admitted him in camp school, that is called a school, missionary school, mission school, whatever you call it. So there, Ambedkar Guruji was the teacher there, and he has a love and affection, and he was a very broad-minded person. Though he was a Brahmin, he used to bring the tiffin for Baba Sahib. So that Ambedkar Guruji, because Baba Sahib's original name was Sakapad, but there was a practice in those days, especially in Konkan, to write the name of the place. So that way, Baba Sahib, they were in Mumbai also. Most of the people, their original names were very different, but they were known as Savarkar. So many you can quote like that. So accordingly, this Ramji Baba also must have put Ambadevekar, but while pronouncing, it has become Ambavadekar, Ambadekar. Even Baba Sahib's handwriting also, you can see that somewhere he has written Ambadekar, somewhere Ambedkar, Ambavadekar. And he has told to in this Navayuga issue was there, no? So that time, Satyabodh Hudlikar was there. He has taken Baba Sahib's interview. It is published in Navayuga of 1947. So there also Baba Sahib said that we were known as Ambavadekar, but my teacher changed this name. So Ambedkar Guruji, because it was Ambavadekar, it was very, very odd name, no? So, and I understood from his hairs of Dr. Ambedkar Guruji that he was knowing astrology also. So he was aware that this boy will be very shining, he will be very, very big man. So perhaps Kira also has written like that, because he came to know that our surname will go to the world, or so he changed his name like that. Because he was a very favorite student, and I was also, he used to give him dashmaya also. Dashmaya means it will last for long time. He used to bring the dashmaya and give Baba Sahib. Even every day he used to bring chapati and bhaji for Baba Sahib. So he changed this name. That is in camp school or mission school or missionary school, not in Satara High School or the presently Pratap Singh High School. So that is the history of the Ambedkar Guruji's name. And Ambedkar Guruji and Keluskar Guruji, they have played a very important role and to shape the life of Baba Sahib. They were not only teachers. Actually, practically, Keluskar did not teach Baba Sahib, but he was as a guru only. They means all these two Gurujis and Baba Sahib. That is the relation of Shishya, Guru Shishya. And there are some similarities, actually. Coincidentally, there are some similarities in Ambedkar Guruji and Keluskar Guruji. First thing is that they were teachers by profession. Their profession was teacher. So both were teachers, and both name of the both the teachers is Krishna ji. That is second thing. Both of them were well wishers and guide by Baba Sahib. Both do not belong to depressed classes. Still, they were loving and um, loving this boy, depressed classes boy, and they have put the permanent impression, because Baba Sahib never forget Keluskar Guruji or Ambedkar Guruji. There, I can quote the one incident. So in one of the speech in Purandar Stadium, Baba Sahib said that when his name was appeared in the newspaper as a representative of the Roundtable Conference. So Guruji sent one letter to him for congratulating him. So Baba Sahib said that letter is a valuable treasure for me, and I have put kept that letter very preciously and very and whenever he write his autobiography, that time he will quote that letter. Moreover, Ambedkar Guruji came twice to see Baba Sahib in his office in Damodar Hall. So first time, 22nd June 1924, he came. It was a Sunday. So Baba Sahib saw him. I was sitting with some people. That time, Khair Modi, the biographer of Baba Sahib, was also available there. He was present there. So Baba Sahib saw that Guruji is coming with dhoti and that pagdi. If you have seen the photograph, I got the photograph and I have given to Symbiosis also. That I put that in Symbiosis also. In my album also, I have given the photograph. He was typically Puneri pagdi and dhoti, everything, and said the sadra like that. So Baba saw him and he went away and he welcomed him. He bowed down before him on his feet. See the modesty. Baba Sahib was MA PhD of Columbia University, and that Guruji was just primary teacher. But see the respect for the Guru. Then he brought him and he said that he want to give Guru Dakshina to him. And he said, when should I come? But Guruji said, our family members are orthodox, so they will insult you and I will not tolerate your insult. So best way, I will come on Thursday. The Thursday was 26th June. So as decided, Guruji came to Damodar Hall and Baba Sahib in one big big thali. Baba Sahib put five suparis, five that's eating pans, sawa rupaya, and nine yard dhoti as a Guru Dakshina to Ambedkar Guruji. So see what that's why I'm telling you. Baba Sahib never he was very Baba Sahib was very polite and very uh, uh, giving very respect to his teachers. Maybe Ambedkar Guruji, maybe even afterwards you see John Dewey or Seligman, he never forget his gurus. Anyway, so Guruji had come twice and he died at Satara on 22nd December 1934. The one more similarity in Keduskar Guruji and Ambedkar Guruji is both died in 1934. See the coincidence is there. So many similarities are there in Ambedkar Guruji and Keduskar Guruji. Then then I will come to some coincidences in Ambedkar family itself. See, the marriages took place in the Ambedkar family in the month of April only. The first marriage was 4th April 1948. Mukundrao and married Yashoda. Mukundrao Ambedkar means nephew of the Baba Sahib. He married Yashoda on 4th April 1948. It was Sunday. Baba Sahib himself married Dr. Sharda Kabir in Delhi. That was 14th April 1948. That was Thursday. And Yashwantrao, means we call him Bhaiya Sahib Ambedkar. He married Neera Stadvi, her maiden name. Subsequently, it was became Bhaiya Sahib changed it to Meera. So he married Neera on 19th April 1953. This is coincidence that all the three marriages took place in April. Second thing, Ramabai, his first wife Ramabai, and Savitamai, both died in May. The Ramai died on 27th May 1935, and my Sahib died on 29th May 2003. Both his wives died in May, in month of May, and marriages in April. So these are some coincidences in marriage and deaths of Ambedkar family. And recently, sir, there was one more point I would like to share here. So usually all the people, even in my first album, which was published in 2007, my first album, which was released by Prime Minister, English edition. Hindi was released by Governor of Orissa, and Marathi was released by Mungekar, and, Dr. Mungekar, and Yedi Phadke was the president of the meeting in Bombay University. So there also I put 1st January 1927 as the date of the visit of Baba Sahib to the Bhima Koregaon Memorial. So I also put that time, but subsequently, while studying and I'm preparing, in fact, I must tell here that I am preparing Samagra Jivan Pat, detailed chronology and movement of Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, which is going to be published by the Popular Prakashan, and already it will be in 3 volumes, and it covers the period of 1891 to 1953, 56, sorry, 56. So for this period, it is running into 3 volumes, and each volume is containing about 300 to 400 pages. So while doing this, I come across that 1st January 1927, Baba Sahib was not in Mumbai, not in Pune, he was in Panhala. Because what happened, he has made 2 trips, this especially for Christmas vacation. So this time in 19, I tell you, 26th December 1926 to 5th January 1927, he was at Panhala, and I have got details of the day-to-day activities. And one day he prepared biryani for his colleagues. So all people used to meet, and every day there had been some program to see the nearby visiting places. So I have got the detail. So how it will, when he was in Panhala, how he will go to Bhima Korega on 1st January. So that also I found out. So he must have gone there, or he has gone on 15th May 1927, because prior to that there was a teachers conference of Pune district, and Baba Sahib was the chief speaker or chief guest there, and he attended that meeting. And there was a Sahbhojan in Tilak's residence. Our Tilak, Siddharpanta Tilak, he also attended those meetings. And there was a Sahbhojan in Gaikwadwada hosted by Siddharpanta Tilak. So he must have gone to Bhima Koregaon Memorial on 15th May 1927, not 1st January 1927. Some people say every year he used to go. As per my knowledge, he has gone once only. There is no record that second, because he was so busy. So he will not go every year there. So people, I don't know how they write that every 1st January he used to go there. I can show the where he was there, right from the 1927. I can show where he was on the 1st January. So he never went to Bhima Koreva. He went there once only, and that is on 15th May 1927, not 1st January 1927, because 26th December 26 to 5th January 1927, he was gone to Panhala for vacations, Christmas vacations, and every day there was a program. I got a detailed program of these days. And he left Kolhapur on 5th January 1927. And these people means that Jeevapai Dade, then Pod, and Dattova Pawar, all these people came up to Miraj, because that time there was no direct train. If from Bombay you want to go to Kolhapur, you have to change 2 trains. From Bombay to Pune, that was a broad gauge. From Pune to Miraj, it was meter gauge, and from Miraj to Kolhapur, it was narrow gauge. So these people came up to Miraj to say goodbye to Baba Sahib on 5th January 1927. So this also I find during my this research and that. So I am happy that at least you got the opportunity to share my experiences and uh, point out or throw some light on the factual position and facts of Dr. Baba Ambedkar. I am grateful to all of you, your association, and I'm especially I can mention, because my son is also there. So I can mention Sanjay Bhagat sir, Pankaj Meshram sir, and Dr. Sheetal Meshram. Means all people have taken, but these 3 people, they were very careful, and they took care of my son there. So I'm very much grateful to them. And they are doing, not only my son, they are doing for all people. I have seen that because I had been there for twice in America, and I stayed there about six months. and I met all the people. The people are doing good job there, and it is very, the new generation also taking very interest, and they are also very much eager to know about Baba Sahib, his philosophy, his life. So I'm very happy, and I'm grateful to you, and I hope whatever I could share, I have shared you. So if anything is there, forgive me, and I think I should stop here. And I'm really grateful to you. If any questions are there, I welcome the questions. If any doubt or questions is there, so as per my best knowledge, I will try to answer it. So thank you very much once again, Jai Bhim, and happy Jayanti, happy Baba Sahib Ambedkar Jayanti. I wish all the people this Jayanti. And if anything, any questions or any clarification is required, I welcome it. Thank you very much.
Jai Bhim and Namo Buddhaya Vijay sir. Thank you very much, Subhade Sahib. And we are very grateful for your insightful talk. April, we celebrate it as a month of Phule Ambedkar Vichar Mancha. And we are getting so much of a history from Baba Sahib's life. And you have been already very a good collector of his photographs and information about Baba Sahib's life. So I will open up the forum for question and answer, but I'm so thankful
If anything is,
when you
I
were,
welcome it. Well, I will try to give the answer as per my best knowledge.
right, when you were narrating the story of Baroda, I kind of cried a little, but so thank you very much for that. So your first question is coming from Satyanathji. Satyanathji, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yeah, Jai Bhim first of all, Namo Buddhaya.
Jai Bhim, Namo Buddhaya.
Unfortunately, I missed your beginning part of your speech. I thought it would start at 11:30, but you probably started much earlier, 11. So
Okay.
I hope to get that from Facebook. My question is about his marriage. I mean, I thought he was married only twice. He had only, the last marriage was to the doctor. And but you mentioned he married a third time. And was that, did he divorce the doctor, or did the doctor die, or what? Can you enlighten us a little more about that, particularly the third marriage?
So Satyanathji, I think you mistook his talk. What he was mentioning about the different marriages happened in Ambedkar family. So the third marriage that you caught was for Mukundrao Ambedkar, his nephew. Okay, so he only married twice, and Mai Sahib Ambedkar died in 2003, and she also died in the month of May, on May 29th. So he only married twice.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Other questions, please raise your hand. So, Subhade Sahib, while people are thinking about it, I had one question about the picture of Ramji Ambedkar. So where was it taken? Do we know any history about it? And any additional information related to that picture? Sir, तुम्ही म्यूट वर आहात सर. सुभाणे साहेब.
Okay. Now it is all right.
Yes.
Bola.
Right, Subedar Ramji, we have only one picture. And so, do you know where it was taken? Is it taken from his British records, because he's in a
dead body? The picture later itself it is clear, no? It is that time it was practice to take a photograph of dead body with dead body. You can see the Ramabai's photograph. Ramabai's photograph. So accordingly, the photograph of Subedar was taken after his death, and he requested Dattobha Dalvi to make a portrait, and he clearly said that his eyes are closed now. Dead body means it is also, so that is a portrait done by Dattobha Dalvi. He was an artist. He was a principal of the JJ School of Arts. And he was very important person because Baba Sahib, while writing a letter from America, he has referred Dalvi's name also.
Right,
Baba
right.
Sahib referred Dalvi's name. You can see that letter. In the first line, Baba Sahib, as told by Dalvi, the letter start itself like this. So Dalvi has a very important role and very close to Maharaj.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Sir, your next question comes from Dhananjay Avade. Dhananjay, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, Jai Bhim. And
Jai Bhim.
thank you so much, Survade sir, for taking us into the lesser known facts about Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar.
Thank you very
And
much.
yeah, so I would like to ask about Dr. Ambedkar's affection about Nagpur. Why he chose? I think everybody knows why he chose Nagpur, but there will be again lesser known facts about Dr. Ambedkar's choosing Nagpur as the
No,
Diksha
no,
giving
no,
place.
no, 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 no. It is he has made clear. It is Nagpur because we are the our ancestors were the Nag people,
Yes,
and
yes.
we belongs to the Nag family. And Nagapur. It is not Nagpur. Naga means
Nagpur, yes.
Naga people were in his speech only he has cleared. He has clearly said because some people said that time some reporter that you intentionally choose this because RSS headquarters is there. So Baba Sahib said in Marathi, he says, मला नाक घासून अपशकुन करायला वेळ नाहीये. आणि I choose this because this is our ancestors, the Nag, they were staying here, and the river that is also
Yes,
Nag Nadi. So
yes,
the people staying on the bank of the Nag River, they are Nag people, and because they are our ancestors, and they were Buddhist, and they only spread
yes.
the Buddhism. So he prepared. He in his speech itself, it is he has clarified that.
Yes, yes. So I was thinking to get more lesser known facts like he's choosing Nagpur as well as staying in the Sham Hotel in Nagpur.
No, no, no.
There
There
were
is
a
no
lot of memories
no,
I heard.
no, 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 no. Sham Hotel was this was done by Godbole only. No, Godbole was the
Yes,
main coordinator of this. He only selected he should come by plane. It was kept confidential. Then nobody was known that when Baba Sahib will come and that. So the chief coordinator and organizer was Vaman Rao Godbole. So he made all these things like that. No. So there is not a specific for Shah materials. It is nothing specific. As per the
okay.
convenience and as per their contacts and as per his imagination, say our planning of Godbole, everything was arranged. Baba Sahib came by plane directly, and nobody knows. For only 5 people were knowing that he is coming. Which plane he is coming.
Okay. Yes. Thank
Only
you, sir.
thing, no, I can add here about
Yeah.
Chandrapur, because he 15th there was a Chandrapur function, 16th Chandrapur Diksha was there. So Baba Sahib was staying in the guest house there, and as per the original plan, Baba Sahib was to come to from Chandrapur to Nagpur by train, and from Nagpur to Delhi also he was planning. The planning was there to go to Delhi by train. But what happened? Nanak Chandra Rattu was a government employee. He said that he has no leave and he must join the job on the particular date. So Baba Sahib asked to cancel the ticket from Nagpur to Chandrapur, and from Nagpur he went by plane. And that's why he forgot to carry the photograph, which was kept on the pandal. No, there were two
Mhm.
portraits by Hemant Nagdeve. Nagdevi artist was there. So one photograph which Vaman Rao Godbole is having, that Baba Sahib was to go bring to Delhi, because as per the original plan he was to go by railway, by train. But since he came from Chandrapur to Nagpur, and from railway station itself he went to airport. So that photograph was left. Actually, Baba Sahib used to was thinking to get that photograph with him, but no, it was left with Godbole only. I've seen that original copy also with Godbole. I mean, that is the additional I can add there. The people
Okay.
may not
Okay.
know.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dhananjay. Sir, your next question is coming from Jagannath. Jagannath, sir, please go ahead and unmute yourself. Jagannath Venkatramaiah, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Namo Bodhaya, Jai Bhim, Jai Bhim.
Namo Buddhaya, Jai Bhim, Jai Bhim.
I'm so happy, brother Surwade. I feel also guilty because I could join a little late because of some unavoidable conditions. But my one observation.
No. It will be. Perhaps they will make it available on the YouTube or I don't know.
No, my request is very simple. With whatever
Please,
little
please.
interface I could learn from you, the insight you have very closely associated with the life of Baba Saheb. Where it is available in the documentary format, has anybody written or yourself have attempted for it? Or see, for younger generation,
I myself have done all research work. I am doing independently. I am alone.
no, have you written?
Baroda, whatever.
Have you written?
I mean, I have used in my book somewhere it is, and now I am doing the chronology. That is in Marathi, but it will be translated into Hindi as well as in English also. So there I have given all these facts, and I have got the documentary evidence, and I have collected on my own. I have got all the documents. Whatever you want, I can prove that. Show the document proving the fact.
Because it is very useful for the younger generation to understand the intricacies and the realities.
My efforts are that only. That this is our history, and we must protect it. And I am 16. I am running 68, and I was working in IDBI. I was a deputy general manager, and while working also I was doing this work. It is continuous, and still it is going on. It is not stopped.
Could you kindly share your email ID or a contact postal address?
Surely.
Kindly do so. Surely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. You can send me hi. Take my number, mobile number from Bhagat sir or anybody. Anybody
will
must
share
be
it for you. Yeah. Yes. We'll share it with you.
Kindly share my mobile number to him so that he will
thank you, sir.
Me.
Thank
you very much. You are welcome. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Are there any other questions? I don't see any raised hand in the chat or in the participant window. If anybody wants to ask a question, please go ahead and unmute yourself. So we had very good history about Ambedkar Guruji, Keduskar Guruji, even Ramji Ambedkar, Baba Saheb visit to Vijay Stambha, and his life at Baroda at the time. So any other questions, please unmute yourself, ask. There are a lot of books have different information, but this would be the most authenticate, verified.
Everything cannot be expressed in the one meeting, no.
Right. But it is whatever I am aware of. I'm just saying it's right.
I am trying to in book forms or whatever,
right,
or from maybe chronology, album, whatever is there, whatever way it is, I am trying to
make it available for everybody. Right.
Make it available.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
Surwade Sahab, thank you very much for joining online.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And it was always delighted to see you, both of you. I see your Mrs. also there.
Yes.
Sorry, I was not able to meet you while you are here.
Coincidentally, her birthday is there today.
फार वाढदिवसाच्या खूप खूप शुभेच्छा आहे तुम्हाला. खूप शुभेच्छा.
Coincidentally, her birthday is there today.
So that's good, sir. Every successful man, there is a woman.
Yes. Because without her support, I could not have done anything. No, that is truth.
Good.
Every man has got a support from the. हाँ बोलिए सर.
Sir, आपका जो archive है, वो is it in the digital format somewhere, because you want to take forward to the next level? So
no.
So what we can do to make the digital? Because right now you see all the things are managed by the phone. Everyone has the phone. Everyone has the computer. So
yes.
So and everyone is reading through the phone. So how we can make it digital?
Let us see. If any good proposal comes, then Proposal in the sense, because people misuse that. I have experienced people take and they even don't acknowledge also.
I see.
But still, I am helping all the people. You can ask anybody. I have not take charge any single paisa from anybody. So far, I have done whatever I have done. I always say the maximum money, time, and labor I have spent for Baba Saheb's research work. Always. I always say, and it is a fact. And still it is going on. It will never end.
Good. Thank you.
But Surware, thank you, Mahesh. I think that's a very good idea that we need to work with Surware sir and find out how we can put all this work that he has collected, all these documents, those references, and everything like that in a digital format, if that is helpful to make it helpful for the next generation. So maybe that would be
I can politely mention here, I can mention here that I have got the largest photograph collection and largest letter collection. My idea is that so far I have published 9 albums, 3 by Lok Wangmay Graha, and that you can see in London, America, in embassies also it is given English, which was released by Dr. Manmohan Singh, then the Prime Minister of India. So that copy is gone, and many people are having in America also. I have seen that. So far 9 albums, 4 albums, Marathi, Hindi, English, and Gujarati by Lok Wangmay Graha. Then for Bharti, I have prepared 3 albums, 1 big album and 2 small albums. It is in Marathi and Hindi. And recently, last 2 years back, Narendra Yadav and myself, we were in committee, and we have this Bombay Corporation has published coffee table book in Marathi and Hindi. The Marathi was released by the governor of Maharashtra. He suggested that it should be in English. So accordingly, Mehta Sahab was commissioner that time. He immediately agreed, and on 6th December, the English edition was released by the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. So these two, so far I have done 9 albums, and similarly, I'm just thinking to publish the letters, because I have got in various forms letters, especially the in handwriting of Baba Sahib himself. It may be original form, it may be in Xerox form. So I wish to publish as it is in his own handwriting, and the script will be given, because everybody may not be able to read the handwriting of Baba Sahib. So in English also we will give the script also. So that is my big project and my big dream, you can say, because 9 albums I already published, and 1 more album which will include all the photographs of Baba Sahib. Because what happens, say for example, Pune Pact, there are many photographs. Say Diksha, many photographs, but in album we can give 1 or 2 photographs. So my idea is that all the photographs available, say for the Diksha, there may be hundreds of photographs. So all should come. So I'm just thinking to publish Diksha special album, and 1 album which will include all the photographs. Say for example, he is doing yoga. There are 7 photographs. He is doing yoga. 7 photographs are there. Pune Pact, there are 3 or 4 photographs. So all should come. That is my idea, so that people will get the entire photographs available so far. And similarly letters. That is my dream project. Let us see what happens.
We should definitely work on it, Surware sir. And
Yes.
As an organization and being here, I would be very happy to be part of any help you need. Definitely it's a time and money consuming efforts, but that would be a secondary part. We need to kind of make sure your efforts are fulfilled to the level
so far,
where
whatever
the
I have
effort
done
is
is
put in.
on my own.
Yes,
I
sir.
have
Right. No,
nobody
I
has
understood,
helped
sir.
me.
Right.
I have
And
not taken a single paisa from anybody. Nobody can say that.
right.
Everything I have done on my part. Thousands of photographs, thousands of letters, xerox, books, references, whatever.
Right.
I have
The
spent
question was that in the University of Michigan, I am connected with the University of Michigan and the Michigan State. And the
Okay.
faculty of the South Asian Department, I am connecting with Mr. John Kuhn and the Manan Desai. They are very pro in the Ambedkarite writing and trying to collect the original references. So is it possible to share your contact to them in case they want to come to you and ask the authentic references?
No, but what is their object? What is the object?
Yeah, I
Because
will. I can.
So many people comes to me from abroad, from the all over the world. People have come from France, Paris, Canada, England, America. People have come to me, Japan. So many people came, and I help them because they have got a particular project or particular expectations. But I cannot share the entire thing to anybody. I don't
just
know
to make sure, yeah,
how they will.
Yeah. I
Suppose
will talk offline on that.
Some PhD, or somebody is doing research on Baroda government, Baroda state. Because I am also writing book on Baroda because it is very rare information. It is not so far come in any book. Any book. First time I used 6 documents of Baroda in my album published by Lokwang Megra. There are six documents I have given there because Maharaja nominated Baba Sahib on the local assembly, Petlad constituency. So Jairam was there, he died. So on his place, Maharaja deputed Baba Sahib on a local assembly. But it was not implemented because he went abroad and it was not implemented. But order is there. I given in my album also. The original order, Gujur order I have given already. In all 6 documents are original there. You can see that.
That is a very lesser known fact. It's very, nobody kind of knew about it. So that is a very nice information, right?
It is not available in any book.
Right,
the first time
yeah.
I brought in the light.
Surwade sir, can I ask one question here?
Yes, go ahead, madam. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to ask here, sir, Dr. Ambedkar did a lot of work, each and every people of the society. But we called him a Dalit leader. Why? Why we called him Dalit leader?
We should not call him Dalit, because the philosophy, the principles he laid down, that is not for only India, it is for every human being.
Yeah.
It is for every human being. So, right way, I always call him, he is a Vishwaratna. And now he has been established and acknowledged as a knowledge of symbol of knowledge. That is his caliber and that is his status. You can see. It is not for only Dalit. It is not for only Indians. It is for the entire human community, human being.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions we have on the call? Please go ahead and unmute yourself. Yeah, please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question if there are any questions for Vijayji. Okay, if no more questions, I just wanted to take this to the conclusion, the session to the conclusion. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Jai Bhim and
Thank
Namo
you.
Buddhaya. One more time, right? Yeah, it is always a pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you for giving me opportunity to share my experience and share my knowledge with you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, and we are deeply indebted for the information you shared today, especially with respect to Kirloskar Guruji and Ambedkar Guruji, and the information about Subedar Ramji Ambedkar, Baba Sahib's visit to Baroda and to Vijay Stambha in Bhima Koregaon. So, very insightful, researched information that you have shared. And we are very grateful for your presence today.
And I am also grateful to you that you are spreading the message of Baba Sahib abroad. So I really feel happy that people like you are doing the job there. So it is really.
Yes, sir. Yeah, this is part of an organization. It is a mission. Yes, it is not a single person.
For not a single person.
Yeah, and it is for all of us.
And I am very happy that I am also part of the mission, and I'm sharing my experiences with you. And you people are really deserve it, because young generation is also very much interested in Baba Saheb. That is more important.
So thank you very much, sir. And
Thank you very much. Thank
yeah,
you.
this
Thank
additional history that comes to our place.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Jai Bhim.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. I also wanted to remind everybody that there is a program from a Boston Study Group that is going on, and the link was shared in the chat window. So if you can join after this to that one, that would be very nice. They are trying to get a magazine out, which would be continuously published hereafter. And that's the idea, where different information, Ambedkar movement information happening abroad, USA and other places will be shared for everybody. So that is the target for the publication. So with that, we will see next week. Our guest speaker would be Sujat Ambedkar, the grandson of Baba Saheb Ambedkar. He will be joining us on next Sunday for our Vihara. And until we meet again, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, and we'll see you again next Sunday. Namo Buddhaya, Jai Hind.